Hello, and welcome back to our family's board game channel, House Rules. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Aurora.
I'm Faith.
And I'm Victoria.
So, we finally finished up our A to Z challenge, or what we called our A to Z challenge, where we played all of our games in our collection from A to Z. We were missing one letter in the whole alphabet, X. I only know of one board game with that name on it off the top of my head, but regardless. It ended up being 193 games. And there was a few games in our collection that we didn't play. One was a game that with a hidden defector mechanic. So we didn't play that one because it was just the four of us that were playing, and
The game would have been better with more people.
well, it just would have, just in case one of the four of us got it that maybe didn't understand the game as well, because it would have been the first time they really played. But that's neither here nor there. The other games we played or didn't play were the Dexterity Kids games that they've kind of really outgrown.
Like Candyland.
Yeah, we didn't play Candyland. Now, we did play a few of the domestic games, the Life, or the Game of Life, Sorry. We played one of the Monopoly versions that we have. Cheater's Monopoly. We have a cheater in the midst.
Disclaimer, I do not cheat at games.
Okay. And then
story.
any of the My First games, My First Ticket to Ride, Catan Jr., and then My First Stone Age. We played the regular version of those. And it was really fun for all of us to do that because the girls actually grew in the amount of games that they played, and they really showed us that they could contend in a lot of these games. Now, when we tallied up all the scores of who won, I became the top dog.
Champion.
Yeah, the champion. I like that.
You need a crown now.
Yeah. Kib, you know what to do. But everybody won a good fair share of the overall games that we played. So it was just so much fun to finally finish that up. And on our last three games, we actually played all at the same time. And I think it was World's Fair,
Yahtzee.
1893, Yahtzee, and Zombie Dice. So it was just super fun. It was like you did your turn, you went to the next game, you did the next game, you came back, kind of waited for your turn for World's Fair, and then but that was just super fun. If you ever get a chance, just play two or three easy games, just that you can set up all on one table or whatever. Just do it. It's kind of fun. All right, we are playing 3 games at the same time. Yahtzee. Faith just got a full house. Just like everybody else. Zombie Dice. And World's Fair. Oh, yeah.
It is
I liked
fun.
it.
So we have, we've all picked out 5 games of our collection that we thoroughly enjoyed. We either haven't played in a long time and we're finally able to get back to it and actually realize that we really enjoy it again, or ones that we know we like and we wanted to tell you that we got to play them again finally. So anyway, let's go ahead and we'll jump into our lists. So Victoria, why don't you start by giving us your number 5 of the list?
So, number 5 on my list, and this is no special order of preference, just the games that I picked. I have Now or Never by Red Raven Games. And Now or Never is a story-driven game where your characters...
You each take a character
yes, everybody takes a character
into the world,
and you will complete different adventures through the storybook, discover different areas, and try to collect different resources to complete different missions.
Yeah, and each game is set up in a chapter, or a scenario, and everybody has their own booklet that they can, when they go to a certain spot, that somebody will read through for them, and they get to go through the challenge of it. And so each booklet is set up, or not each person has it, each chapter has a different booklet with all the characters' information, a slightly different setup from the actual standard base game that you can play, but it has the great artwork of the Red Raven games.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, it's super fun. So, Red Raven's Now or Never. And again, it's part of a trilogy. I do this a lot too. It's part of the trilogy with Above and Below and Near and Far.
Yep, Near and Far.
So, great game.
Oh, and Sleeping Gods.
Well, it's not part of the trilogy with that one, but that is done by Red Raven Games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Faith, what's your number 5 pick or your...
My number 5 is World's Fair by Renegade Games. The board is like a Ferris wheel they have to go around for, and then there's 5 different parts that connect to it: manufacturing, electricity, agriculture, transportation, and then there's another one that I don't like remember.
Can't remember.
I can't remember it.
And then you try to collect these different cards that from each place to earn you points. And then if you get a set, it's like 15 points. If you have 4, it's 10. 3, it's
Right.
10.
You try to collect sets, and they give you points. It's played over 3 rounds, and I know we've talked about it a little bit in our other videos. So it is a very easy game. Like I said, it was one of the ones we played as one of our last 3 games in our trifecta O games. Aurora, what do you got for your number 5?
Funny thing, mine is actually also World's Fair.
Boom. We don't got to talk about it then, do we? Crossover!
What we talked about. Thanks for 3 places.
So, my number 5 or my 5th game that we really haven't played in quite a while, and it's Photosynthesis by Blue Orange Games. Blue Orange is really known for their kind of family weight games that are easy to play with younger kids, but also give enough strategy that when adults play them, there's actually a lot of strategy.
It could be very competitive if
Competitive,
you
yeah.
It can be.
all adults playing that.
So, and I'm not sure, had you ever played that before?
I've played it twice, actually.
Okay. So it's got really good table presence. And what I mean is everybody's got their own type of tree piece. And the board sits out and the sun rotates around this board. And when on your turn, you're taking turns setting out trees out on the board that you want to grow, and you earn points from how much your tree gathers rays from the sun. And so your trees continue to grow throughout the game, and it just looks really cool. You know, you have the evergreen trees, the maple trees, the birch trees, and then the sun keeps just going around the board, and it's at different angles, and sometimes you score a lot of points, sometimes you score hardly any points. And at the end of the game, whoever's accumulated the most overall points is the winner. So, visually beautiful, not hard to learn. There's only just a couple phases of each round. And the game plays 4 revolutions of the sun. So, it's super fun. So, Photosynthesis by Blue Orange Games. So, let's move on to our number 4.
My number 4 is Quacks of Quedlinburg by North Star Games. And it is a tile drafting, not quite tiles, but you are a...
Push your luck game.
Press your luck, yes. But you put potion ingredients into your bag, and you have to draw them out one at a time and place them into your pot. And certain ingredients will make your potion explode. So if your potion explodes, then you don't get to shop for other ingredients or gain points. You'd only choose one. If your potion doesn't explode, you can shop for ingredients and gain the points. So that game is played over 9 rounds, and at the end of 9 rounds, whoever has the most points wins.
Yeah, what a frustrating game for me. I love it, and I like the expansions too. Especially the Alchemist expansion is the one we play with since we've got it the most. Mm-hmm. We also have the Herb Witches one, You could play them all together if you want to, but yeah, it never fails to have a whole bag full of ingredients and pull out the ones that make your potion explode.
Snowberries.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. So, yeah, Quacks of Quellenberg, super fun game. Faith, what about you?
My number 4 is Spy Alley by Spy Alley Partners. You each person picks a spy, and then you go around the board, and then you have like a secret identity. France, Russia, America.
Yep, there's
Italy.
6 different nationalities that you'll be, and then you roll a die and move around a board, right?
Yeah. And then you try to guess everyone else to get them out so you win.
Yeah, so you either collect all the components of your nationality secretly and get back to a spot and say, oh, yep, I collected all my stuff. Or you can, there's different ways to guess the other players out, or guess what their nationality is. And if you do, then you basically out them, they're out of the game. You keep all your stuff. I'm terrible at this game. Or these two are just great at guessing randomly.
You're
when
just
you have
bad
3
at putting your
I have
pieces
3
in the
pieces
board.
and I don't even pick it. Like, I don't even have a piece in you're Germany. I hate you guys. So, yeah, that's a really good one. So, Aurora, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is viticulture. It is a wine making game. So you start off so you're trying to build your vineyard.
Wine Empire?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. You're trying to the game is played over 4. It's a worker placement game played over different seasons, and everybody is trying to make wines. Through that, you build up your own little player board, which has your vineyards. It has your tasting room and your cottages and your cellars and your crush pads for making the wine. And you go through the game doing that. You do in the spring, you kind of pick your turn order. In the summer, you're doing a lot of your planting and having visitors help you do summer stuff, giving tours. Then you do a fall where everybody kind of collects some stuff. And then in the winter, you're actually turning the grapes into the wine. You're harvesting the fields, crushing the grapes, putting them in your cellar. And actually, this last time we played it, we played Viticulture Worlds when we did our playthrough of the of Viticulture. So we've played it one other time, the Viticulture Worlds. I mean, we played Viticulture for like 2 years with some friends of ours. So almost every Sunday we played, it seemed like. So love that game. But yeah, Viticulture by Stonemaier Games.
Yep.
And it's a fantastic game. Very good production. Stonemaier's known for just great games in general, but their part and piece qualities, top notch. And they always have a really good insert for their boxes so that all the stuff fits in there. So keep that up.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go on to my number 4.
Yep.
My number 4 is Raiders of the North Sea, and that's by Garfield Games. In this game, it's another type of worker placement game, but it has a really cool mechanic. You're kind of doing 2 actions on your turn. You're taking one of the little meeples you have, and Viking meeples, and you put it down on the board in a spot. You do that action. You pick up another one, and you do that action. And there's 3 different colors of meeples that give you levels of the actions that you're going to do. And then throughout the game, you're going to go raiding in the different places, harbors, monasteries, fortresses, stuff like that. And it's actually you're scoring points in different ways. How much armor you've made, how much offerings you've done, and how many Vikings you've lost throughout the game during your raids is 3 different ways I think you gain points. So it's really cool to teach because it's a really cool mechanic on the worker placement game. And so Raiders of the North Sea by Garfield Games.
Woo!
So let's go on to our number 3. Number 3 game.
Well, Raiders of the North Sea was the 3rd game on my list.
Woohoo!
And
crossover.
I really don't have too much to add to what Jeremy did. It's one of my favorite games. I just love playing that one. So I was glad to get it to the table again and play it with the girls.
All right, Faith, what about you? What's your number 3?
My number 3 is Ticket to Ride by Days of Wonder. You each pick a destination card, 3 to start out, and then you start from one place using your trains and color train cards to move across to where your other destination.
Yeah, on your turn, you'll do one of 3 things. You'll take cards from the face-up cards or not, or the face-down deck. You'll lay cards out on this track, and there's multiple different maps for Ticket to Ride. I know we've talked about it before. We have the Europe one, and then we have 3 other expansions. And in our A to Z one, we played 5 of the 8 maps we have, or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're trying to connect these destinations to score points in Ticket to Ride with these different colored tracks. Faith, what was your favorite Ticket to Ride one that we did?
Probably either the France or the Europe one.
Okay, yeah. So Europe is the standalone game, and we use all of our pieces from that to kind of do the other ones.
Yeah.
The France board has little modular pieces of track that you put on. So after you've done an action on the thing on the board, you actually take the little modular pieces and kind of make the track color that you want. So people can still use it, other players can still use it, but you kind of have an advantage because you kind of put the color that you're going for there. So yeah, Ticket to Ride, super fun. You know, I liked the Japanese one. That was really fun.
That one is fun.
Yeah. Get to use the bullet train. It's actually a little bit quicker because everybody's kind of working together and you have less trains to work with. So, what about you? What's your favorite one that you played of the Ticket to Rides?
My favorite Ticket to Ride would be Japanese one.
What about you, Victoria?
Mine's probably France. But close second would be the Pennsylvania map, which has, when you build different tracks, you can buy stock in the different railroad lines, and that helps at the end game scoring because
points, yeah.
Whoever has the most or second most of the different stocks of the different railroads gains points for that too. So that's kind of fun.
If you don't have the Ticket to Ride game and you're watching this, go get a Ticket to Ride game.
They have it at big box stores. I'm sure smaller local game stores would have it, but it's a good one.
It's pretty easy to find.
And you have to get a base game to get any others.
Yeah, the US version.
Then you can't play it.
The US map or the Europe map are the 2 easiest ones to find. There's little card ones that are kind of standalone too. So, all right, Aurora, what's your number 3 game?
My number 3 game would be Settlers of Catan, and I love Catans, but Settlers of Catan there's a board.
The classic one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in Settlers of Catan, you have your board set up. You're putting out settlements and roads, and they are in between these tiles. And on your turn, you roll a die, and whatever number comes up, that will tell you which tile will activate and the resource that you will gain. And then throughout the game, you'll be trading resources with each other, if possible, or you might have that stingy person that doesn't want to.
Even
though they have everything.
Sometimes that person wants to trade with you, but they need that one sheep.
That's true. That's true.
Sheep didn't come out like hardly ever.
So, then the first person to get to 10 victory points kind of wins the game. So, or at least triggers the end of the game, and then if there's any secret points and somebody else has it, they win. But so far, the most time when I play, it's whoever gets to 10 first wins.
Yeah.
So, is it my number 3?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So my number 3, actually, is Viticulture. Crossover! So, we already talked about Viticulture. We had played it with some other friends many moons, and just had a great time with it. We have the Tuscany expansion, we have the Worlds expansion, and with the base game, obviously. So, just a great game by Stonemaier Games. Just super game. So, I guess that's up for our number 3. That was our number 3, right?
That was our number 3. Stay on
So I
track.
guess I'm terrible. It's like going into anyway. Okay, so we'll move on to our number 2 game.
Number 2.
My number 2 game is Villainous by Ravensburger Games. And the goal in that one is to take on a different Disney villain. And you have a player mat where you'll complete different objectives. You move through your realm, gathering coins to like power tokens, trying to gather allies, defeat the heroes, fating the other players. So they'll go through your fate deck and they'll try to add heroes to your realm to stop you from completing your end goal. And the end conditions for each villain are different, but there are 18 different villains now. There's the base game has 6, and then there's a few expansions that each add 3 different characters. And you can mix and match different villains from all of the different movies, expansions. But
and Villainous comes in. We have the Disney one, which is all the Disney villain stuff, but they also have the Marvel one, which we haven't played. We're not overly comic book people. And then there's also the Star Wars one, which I'm sure looks cool. But the little stylized piece that comes for each villain actually looks really cool. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, we played that a lot when we first got it. And every time we get an expansion, we seem to pull it out quite a bit. And then, but we just have a lot of games. Then we hadn't played it until then because we had a lot of other games to play. So it was good to get that one back to the table. All right, Faith, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Sura of the Sea by Calliope.
That's a good one.
It's played like the first one, the regular one, but there's like a bunch of dragons that also try to knock you off. Like if they'll move and knock your person off.
Right. If you haven't seen our other videos where we do talk about Suro has a board with a bunch of that has open squares on it. And on your turn, you're going to play a tile, and that tile has a bunch of lines going different directions on it. And your token is set up on the edge of the board on a little notch, and you put a card on it, a tile on it, and you have to follow that line that connects to the little notch you're sitting on. And in Sura of the Seas, there are dragon sea monsters that are on there that will move based on the game's mechanics. And certain movements will cause you to fall off or have your token destroyed.
Yeah.
So when you do that, the last person standing in any of the Suro games is the winner. And I think you end up winning? Yeah. I was out. I don't think I put 2 tiles down and I was out. So, not fair. So, we do like the Suro games. Calliope is another one of those companies that makes a lot of family weight games, but they can still be fun for all ages, and easily replayable,
Competitive, family-friendly games.
There you go. That's good.
Well said.
Gotta come up with an acronym. All right. Number 2 for you, Aurora.
My number 2 is, wait for it, Ticket to Ride.
Ticket to Ride. Boy, it's like we haven't just talked about that one.
Crossover
again. Now, I'll say this. Our A through M, we actually had a lot more games overall than our N through Z. So, however, we still do have a lot of games overall. All right, so we really don't have to say anything about the Ticket to Ride because actually we already went over all of our favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go to my number 2. Man, I'm getting better.
Stay
and
on track.
my number 2 game is Terraforming Mars by Stronghold Games. And Terraforming Mars is you are taking on the role of a corporation trying to become the face of Mars. Along with all of the other players, you're trying to terraform it to make it habitable. But you're going to do that by raising the oxygen, having enough oceans and enough water on the planet's surface, and raising the temperature. And just there's a little bit of card drafting. There's a little bit of, I'll call it area control, but that's probably loose based on it. Throughout the game, you'll buy milestones. You'll kind of buy your points, buying the win, if you will. Terraforming Mars looks great. We actually own the Prelude expansion. And if you're going to play Terraforming Mars, get the Prelude expansion. It'll just save you 20 minutes of building your engine. So, because there's a little bit of engine building through there. But you're going to do that by playing cards to your tableau, which helps you put stuff out on the board, which helps you put things on your own little player mat, which helps you terraform the planet. And whoever has the highest terraform rating / victory points at the end of the game wins. So, Terraforming Mars is just a great game. The girls did a really good job. I will say there is a little bit like the card playing. It's really order of operation, and keeping your stuff organized really helps the game. There's a lot of really good iconography on the different cards that helps you learn the game a little bit faster. But I remember when I first started playing, it felt overwhelming. But once I got through 4 or 5 rounds of the game, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So, all right, that was my number 2, so that was the end?
Number 1.
All right, so let's go on to our number 1.
Number 1. So my number 1 is Victorian Masterminds by Simon Games. And you are, in this game, take the role of a Victorian inventor, and you are building a marvelous contraption. And
An inventor?
there are inventors.
No.
No.
They're villains.
So a villain is an inventor.
We know who our bad guy is in our family.
Not inventors.
I didn't finish my sentence.
Yeah, she didn't finish.
An inventor with maybe less than popular morals or ideas. Anyway, whatever you call it. You're creating a machine, and it's an engine building game. So you are building the engine, gathering parts for the machine, trying to complete different card objectives, and you have little spies that go out to the different areas to gather those resources or complete those different card objectives.
Yeah, you have henchmen that go out and do your dirty work for you because you're a villain. And they go out and, like Gru, steal buildings, or Vector, steal buildings, both, and they get the Secret Service after them. And yeah, you're just trying to score the most points by the end of the game by stealing all of these things, completing tasks. So the game is super pretty. Like it's just so cool. But there's, what is there, 6? 6 different inventors / masterminds / villains that you can choose from, and they all have a different contraption that they build. And yeah, it is really cool. So you play a little bit different. Every piece of the contraption gives you a little bit of a bonus that you use throughout the game. Yeah. So that's where she's telling you to build the engine. You're literally building your engine. Get it?
Literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the quality of the pieces is good in this game. The artwork is really cool. It's very vibrant, but dark. Is that a thing?
I think it is.
And then again, this one has a really good insert. So yeah, we just happened to play this game at Mayhem, our friendly local game store, and it was just like, oh, we need to get this one. It was super fun. So
it was super fun.
we ended up getting it. So all right, that was
number 1.
that was number 1. Jeez, I'm terrible. This is why I can't be in charge of the list. All right, Faith, what is your number 1?
My number 1 is Potion Explosion, also by Simon Games.
That's a good one.
It is good.
So you're a scientist, and you have these beakers that let you do different stuff, take an extra turn, and then there's different colored marbles to help you complete them. These beaker things.
Yes, yeah.
Potions.
So there's a contraption that, like a little ramp with little rows in it, and you put all these marbles that are different colors: red, blue, black, yellow.
That's it.
I think that's
yeah,
it.
That's it. And they all roll down this thing, and they're in a row. On your turn, you're going to pick up one of these marbles, and the rest are going to roll down. Well, if you have 2 that kind of collide together that are the same color, they call that an explosion, and you get to pick those up too. And what essentially you're doing is, yes, taking these marbles of these different colors and putting them on your own little potions that you're trying to brew, represented by the colors on the potion bottles, on your little beaker deals. And as you collect them, you put them on these things, and when you finish them, you turn over the completed potion, and then later on in the game, you can actually drink the potion, and it'll give you more power, so you can collect new marbles, change up how the marbles can work in the game. And how's it end?
Once
Each person gets...
Somebody gets so many potions, I
Yeah.
think.
yeah.
A 6?
Or
No.
how many star potions.
Yeah. No, the star potions are the starter ones.
Oh, yeah.
Shoot, I can't even remember how it ends now, but at the end of the game, whoever has the most points, each potion kind of has a point value on it. Whoever has the most points wins the game. So, super fun game. Again, very visually pleasing on the table. And it's just cool to kind of roll the marble back into the little contraption. And I just like the mechanic of taking it out there and click, oh, then you pick up another one, clank, and then you pick up another one, clank. Oh man, I got like 30 marbles in my hand. I can't use them all. And then they all go back in. So you are allowed to save a few each turn if you have room. But yeah, Potion Explosion, that's a good one. All right, Aurora,
My number one.
number one.
My number one is Red Dragon Inn. Don't get me wrong, I do love Catan and Ticket to Ride. It's just my first time playing Red Dragon Inn. It was super fun, and that one's by Slugfest Games.
Yeah. And we have talked about Red Dragon Inn before. We have a whole bunch of expansions for it, and basically you can play with as many people as you have room to play the game, and the number of boards you have. Everybody takes on a character, and you've just come back from
A fight.
you've come back from an adventure, and they're kind of all kind of Dungeons and Dragons-y sort of fantasy people and creatures. You're back in the inn, you're all cleaned up, you've got your money, and then you get to brag about your adventure, you're gambling, you're kind of scuffling around, and you're trying to be the last person standing. You either try to get everybody out by spending all their money, and then the tavern kicks them out, or you try to pummel them to make them lose their health, or give them too much alcohol to where the health and alcohol level cross over. And so we have played this with, I think, 8 people before. Whew, geez, you just can't keep up with what's going on. So a few people drop pretty fast when it gets that way. But when you're out for the rest of the game, and then the last person standing wins that one. So
I won last time.
yeah, it's... Who did you have?
What's the one? Is like she's a mother of 4 children. The air, water, fire, and
yep.
earth. Oh, what's her name?
Shoot, I can't remember what the names are. There's so many of them. But I know who you're talking about.
She's from one of the expansions.
One of the expansions, yeah. But anyway, Red Dragon Inn is super good. Good pick.
Boom.
All right, my number one is a game by Orange Nebula Games, and that's Vindication. Back in 2016 or 17, we'd only been in the hobby for a little bit, but we discovered Okay, let me rephrase that. I discovered Kickstarter, and it was a game that I thought looked really cool, had some cool ideas. I was like, we should kickstart this. And I was like, oh, it's $50, and we ended up paying another $20 because they did some stretch goals, and they're like, hey, we're going to include all of this. But anyway, Vindication, you start out as a captain that's been mutinied and tossed overboard on your ship. So you start out as a wretched scoundrel. And throughout the game, you're going to do different things to gain honor and become
Vindicated.
You vindicated.
You vindicate yourself.
You vindicate yourself. And so throughout the game, it has a kind of a cool color mechanism. So you have tokens that you put out on these different spaces, and they kind of represent certain things. Strength is red, wisdom is green, intelligence or knowledge is blue, and then there's sub actions that you'll be able to do by combining 2 of these other colors tokens that you've already got out to collect relics and stuff like that. So you're moving on the board, you're doing actions on the board, you're doing you're activating yourself, you're collecting certain things, and actually in the beginning of the game, there's no end game trigger. So as you score points and you get to these different milestones, you flip over one of many cards that you've put out that will give you an end game trigger. And then if any one of those gets triggered or is already triggered when you flip it over, there's one more round and the game is over. Whoever has the most points is the winner. They put a lot of work into the different pieces. There's like metal coins. There's 5 expansions. We've only played 1 or 2 of the expansions. The base game is enough, especially when we've taught it a few times. We really have only played it a few times with the expansions. So, but yeah, it's just there's a lot going on, but it's not terribly hard once you get going, right? I would say.
No, it's not.
Yeah, but yeah, and the rule book is actually set up really nice. So it's actually fairly easy to really get to the table. It does play about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on if everybody's paying attention.
But that means it's a good game. Like, there's enough going on. There's enough strategy. And, I mean, that's not too long.
Yeah, and
For a
there's
game.
plenty of replayability. You know, there's plenty of cards that we haven't seen, I'm sure, still in the, dozen or 2 times that we've played the game. So I was so good to get it back to the table and actually play it. So I was super pumped. I hope we get to play it again here shortly. So my number 1 was Vindication by not Blue Orange Games, by Orange Nebula. So I guess that's the end of our top 5 list of each of us persons. So that's not quite 20 games because I know there's some cool crossovers. But if you like the games that we talked about on this,
Like and subscribe.
And if you want to check them out, first check your friendly local gaming store. Or you can, if you can't, then check them out on whatever other service that you can get them from.
And hit that notification bell so you don't miss any cool games.
That's right. So, all right, we'll see you next time on House Rules. Bye.
Bye.